This week we'll be bow hunting on the Equis Ranch just outside of a small town called Sabinal in southwest Texas. The Equis Ranch is about 2,000 acres and is managed specifically with the bow hunter in mind. Now on this ranch you'll find many different species including trophy-sized whitetail, wild boar, and many different species of what they call exotics, which include African blackbuck, Corsican sheep, audads, and many more. Hunting with me this week is Chris Rager, president of Trophy Ridge Archery Products and the manufacturers of the Matrix hunting sight. Chris and I shared an incredible hunt that had many unique challenges along the way. Join us this week as we travel back to the Equis Ranch on this week's episode of America's Outdoor Journal. America's Outdoor Journal, brought to you by Gart Sports, Oshman's, and Sport Mart, where your next outdoor adventure begins.
South Texas. This is what it's all about.
Oh, it's awesome.
This is great.
We have seen so much game out here in the last 4 days. We've certainly put a lot of miles on, but it's been worth it.
Yes, it has.
What a great trip.
Yeah.
You know, last week I called Ginger, who of course owns the Equis Ranch here, and I asked her, I said, now, what should I expect for weather conditions? And she said, well, Al, you know, you never know.
Right.
It could be 80 and it could be 20.
Right.
It's exactly what happened.
What, 18 degrees to 85?
Yeah, I think the first afternoon we got here was over 80 degrees. We were just baking hot.
Yep.
And the next morning we got up, it was clear and 18.
Everything's froze.
Everything's frozen solid.
I had everything I had in my bag I was wearing.
That's right. It got pretty cold, and then, well, you know, that hunt yesterday for that Corsican ram was just one of my highlights of this whole trip. It was just an incredible hunt, very difficult because they were out in the middle of this huge grass area, nothing around for thousands of yards,
Right.
and grass that was probably, what, 18 inches tall?
About as tall as we are thick.
That's right, yeah. Well, you're not quite as thick as me either.
Not much room for crawling.
For a big guy like me, there wasn't much room, but and it must have been kind of fun from your vantage point because you stayed way back and watched the whole thing unfold.
Oh, it was very exciting from where I was at. I saw where you were going to go in, and I tried to get into position to where if things started going south, I could maybe try and wave my hands or something and get their attention taken off of you. And so I'm watching them and I'm watching you and are looking up where you were at. And I kept glancing back over there and I couldn't see and I couldn't see and I couldn't see, and I'm thinking, well, God, did he go all the way around the field or where's he at? And so I'm looking at the sheep again, and then I glance over and there you were coming down through that stuff, and like I said, I mean, 18 inches of grass.
Yeah.
And I don't know how you got to where you did. So then the challenge, of course, was to try and pull the shot off.
Yeah, that was tough.
And I saw that black Hawaiian ram in there. He kind of thought something was up. I don't know what he saw, but I saw him stand up, and maybe he was just stretching or whatever. And so I thought, well, maybe I should kind of move around a little bit and see if he doesn't catch movement over here. And sure enough, it took his attention off of what he was looking at over there. And
I had to pick something out on the horizon that would line up with where I thought they were bedded down.
Right.
Because I knew that once I got within 250 yards, I was going to be on my belly the rest of the way.
Yeah.
And what's interesting, when you look out across there, you can't really tell, but about every 20 feet, there's just dirt.
The big dirt patches.
Yeah, the dirt patches. There isn't even any grass. And I kept worried, you know, I was worried all the time about getting caught in one of those dirt patches out there. And, you know, you're just like this for hundreds of yards and just moving the grass, take my bow, slide it up like this.
Oh, I know. I was watching you that whole time, and I was like, man, his knees have got to be killing
Yeah,
him.
oh, they're pretty
elbows.
raw today from that, but it really paid off. And so I got up a little bit closer, and then I looked up, and I realized that they were less than 30 yards. Wind was perfect. It was right into my face, but it wasn't real strong, so it didn't cover up a lot of the noise.
Right.
I knew I wasn't getting any further. And I thought I could just come up like this, and I just got to my knees, and just as quick as I could, came up, lined up the pin, and let go.
Yes!
It was easily one of the most satisfying stalks that I've ever made with a bow.
Oh, it was perfect. Well, I watched you for probably the last 45 minutes.
Yeah.
When you were coming down, right about the time when you came into sight.
Yeah. With the cover that I had, I wasn't going to get any closer. It wasn't going to do me any good.
Oh, you didn't need no closer. You were there.
Yeah, it was cool.
Yeah, it was perfect.
Hey, you know what? Hunting success depends a lot on the preparation that you put into the hunt prior to getting out to the field. What I want to talk to you today about is how you go out and practice and make sure you're prepared for hunting conditions, wearing the proper clothing, wearing what you're going to be actually hunting in, shooting under various light conditions, maybe shooting from a tree stand, shooting around a tree, shooting from a kneeling position. These are all very important elements so that when you finally get to the field, you're able to take the game that you're after. Here's one of the most common mistakes that are made, and that is practicing with a different type of tip, obviously a broadhead in a hunting condition versus a field tip in the range or in your backyard. And it really goes beyond that. First of all, you need to make sure that your field tip is matched in grain weight to your broadhead. Also, sometimes 3-blade and 4-blade broadheads will shoot differently. Now, this particular manufacturer is Muzzy, and they happen to make a great practice blade that fits right in place of your actual hunting blade. And from my experience, they shoot almost identical, but you can't leave it to chance. Make sure you get out and practice with what you're going to be shooting so that when you get in that field and you have that first opportunity, you have all the confidence in the world that you're going to make a clean kill. We're going to actually be shooting in yardages and becoming very proficient anywhere from 20 to 50 yards, so we're confident in our ability to hit their target. This particular site here has 5 pin positions. You're going to be able to set yardages from say 20 to 50 yards and hit anything in between. Now, this may not be one of the most comfortable positions to shoot from, but it's certainly important in the field, and it's one that you really got to become very proficient at. Just like that. Hunting from tree stands is one of the most efficient ways to take your game, but I'm convinced not enough people practice from up here. Very important that you make sure you can hit your target every time. Yes, just like that. You know what? You put enough practice and time into this, you're going to have great hunting trips coming up. This is Al Noraker for America's Outdoor Journal. Get out in the field, give it a try yourself. Have a great hunt. Hey, we've been hunting this week with Chris Rager, the president of Trophy Ridge, and I know our viewers really enjoy seeing all the new technology and archery equipment, and there's a lot of it. Everybody's coming up with the next new sight and stabilizer and release and all those things, but you have designed here what I think is the best hunting sight on the market today. What's different about the Matrix sight versus everything else that's out there on the market?
Well, number one, we were the first ones to bring the vertical inline technology to the market.
So the pins are stacked vertically rather than coming across like this.
Exactly.
Tell me why you've done that.
Well, number one is the field of view that you gain by that is second to none. A lot of guys nowadays with these fast bows, they've all opted to go to a 3-pin sight. That's good back east where you're shooting at 20, 30, 40 yards. Out west, you can't get away with 3 pins. I mean, you need a 50 and a 60-yard pin out there. And with this technology, it doesn't matter whether it's a 3-pin or whether it's a 5-pin, it's all the same. An animal, when he puts his weight down, his leg is going to be standing vertical. Whichever leg that the weight is on is going to be vertical. And that's a real good thing to remember in that hunting situation is to, put those pins up there, line them up with his leg, and there's your shot.
Excellent. When you're out in the field and you need to make an adjustment, you don't have to pack around a tool. Right?
Yep.
Because this entire sight can be adjusted tools free.
Yes. Number one, we took all of our gang adjustments, the windage and elevation. Instead of having a big set screw in there, we've put a thumb knob on there where you can actually get a hold of it and reef them down just with your hands instead of having to mess with the tools. And number two is each pin has its own cam lock that you can release and a micro tuner where you can adjust each pin individually.
Excellent. Chris, one thing I've noticed about your sight, it's very bright, even in those low light conditions. Yep. Why is this sight so much brighter than the others?
Well, we use over 40 inches of fiber optic on the whole 5-pin sight. There's over 8 inches of fiber on each sight pin. That is more fiber optic than most 5-pin sights use on all of their pins together. And the way the sight is designed, the fiber optics run over the top, around the side, come in through the bottom. And you know, when you think about it, the majority of your light is coming down on you. And that's exactly how fiber optics work. They gather the light from the sides, emit it out the ends, and that's what you get.
Beautiful.
Yes.
Well, it really works. I mean, we've hunted very early and very late on this trip because of the hogs, so we've definitely needed that. But I understand there's one additional feature here that if you're in an extreme low light condition, whether you're in a fully covered ground blind or if you're hunting in a forested area that's with very heavy canopies,
Yes.
but you have a solution for that as well, right? Can you explain that?
This year we came up with a nitro light. It's a Pope & Young legal light source. You snap it, it's similar to a glow stick like what you would see in a survival kit or whatever. It inserts right here into the bottom of the housing. You crack that thing, it'll last 10, 12 hours. It's real bright. It doesn't create a pin halo, so you know you don't lose your target like a real bright pin would do. In a low light situation, that's the last thing you need is a big halo going on out there. It lights up all 5 pins, not just one pin.
Well, you guys have really done a nice job on this site, and for anybody who's looking for a quality site, the Matrix site's got to be it, huh? I know when you came here, when we started talking about this trip, you told me that the one animal that you really wanted to take was a black buck.
Yes.
Right?
Yes, very high on my priority list.
Yeah, and you know, unfortunately we didn't get to stay together the whole time during the hunt, but you tell me that you were successful.
Yes.
Yeah, so you got a big old smile on your face. Why don't you kind of recap that for me?
This is my 3rd trip trying to get one of these guys, and this particular buck is the one that I wanted, and it was his day to get the does.
When you first saw him, was he out in the open like he typically has been?
He was on the opening, but I was trying to get in to a little blind that I had set up back in the corner of that pasture, and on my way in there, what had happened is his does had got away from him and got on the other side of the fence, and he didn't really want to come underneath that fence. And big bucks, they don't like to go under that fence if they don't have to, and for whatever reason he had his does over there, and I saw what was going on and basically dropped down, evaluated the situation, moved in on him.
How far did you actually have to go before you could get the shot?
I only had to sneak in there probably 60 or 80 yards, got into position, and I just let the does kind of feed down in behind me.
Wind was good?
The wind was perfect.
Yeah.
It wasn't blowing to the does, it wasn't blowing to him, so I just kind of did the sneak in there. It wasn't a real difficult sneak because I had a lot of cover. I was just able to get into the right spot, and it was just a matter of, you know, waiting him out. And
it sounds perfect because every time we've seen the black buck, typically he's been staying way out in the center of that field where you've got cover this tall, and we're not getting out there within bow range, and there's just no way for us to put the sneak on them.
They are tough.
Well, that is a wily animal. You know, it's very similar to the antelope.
They're every bit what an antelope is and half the size of a target. I mean, field dress is only 65, 70 pounds.
Of all the different game that's here, from, you know, the fallow deer and oddats, the black buck was on your list.
That was definitely my priority.
That all worked out.
That's like I said, it's my 3rd time down here. I wanted a black buck. I'd love to try and get one of these big old oddats down here, but man, they're just as wily. That's the one I really wanted to get. My 3rd trip, I had to get him.
Remember, products we use in the show are available at Guard Sports, Oshman's, and Sport Mart.
Chris, that was a great story.
Thank you.
You know, I'm really happy for you because I know that was one of your priorities when we came here. So.
Yes. Yep.
But I got to tell you, this was a lot of fun. You know, I've never hunted hogs before, and you know, I was kind of told early on, oh, that's easy.
And they're not as dumb as you think they are.
Holy smokes! And you know, they may not have the greatest eyes, but they more than make up for the lack of sight with their sense of smell.
Yes.
And you've got to be positioned perfectly. As I found out, I found this spot where there was obvious hog trails coming in from almost every direction. Beautiful tree stand location, looking down, figured I had about an 18-yard shot in just about any direction. And sure enough, I was there for a couple hours, got in there about 3, and finally about 5 o'clock, they started moving around. And the first group comes in just perfect. Right, you know, I've got the wind coming right into me. Right when they pass behind that tree, I can go to full draw.
Right.
Okay. Well, just like I'd hoped, They come around that tree, boom, back I go, and I'm just holding. And he took a little bit longer to come around that tree than I wanted. Yeah, that thing was starting to shake a little bit. But just as he came around, and just start to see the nose of this big old hog, I felt that wind shift. It just went, I mean, it was coming just like kind of an angle like this,
Yep.
and it just switched from this way right behind me, and all I could see was brakes go on like this, just boop, and that nose went right up. He had me, and he was gone.
Out of there.
Gone.
Yep. Once they get
And-
your wind, they don't come back either.
Yeah, but it was a great spot. So went back to the same spot the next night, go back to the same tree stand, get all set up again. The wind is still consistent. Everything is great, and this time I've got a few more hogs coming out. They're coming out, you know, above me. They're coming out below me. Obviously, the ones that were below me, I was in trouble with on the wind, but that was
Right.
all right. I still had enough hogs coming out from above.
Right.
And really everything worked out pretty good that night, except I just didn't have the hog come in that I wanted. They were all pretty small. And I was waiting for that big old sofa-size 450-pound hog that Jerry's
Right.
been telling us about. I know he's out there someplace. The fun part is, though, I saw so much game.
Right.
You know, there was beautiful red stag, just big old red stag, and he was about 150 yards out, never did get a shot. But fallow deer, odd-ads, saw the same 4 whitetail every night. You'd like set your clock, you know,
Sure.
by when they were going to come out.
Yep.
They came out in the same spot. They'd walk out from behind these trees and just look right at me, just like that. They knew exactly where I was at, and they were just checking me out every night to make sure I was still there. And sure
Yep.
enough, I was. But
Yep.
so I decided to go back the third night. I get back in the same tree stand, except now the wind is dead right to left.
Right.
And sure enough, the hogs were coming in from my left. They'd get within 80 yards and win me every time. And finally, it was almost getting dark, and I saw some more hogs coming down from my left, and I knew they were going to win me if I just sat there. I figured, I have nothing to lose at this point. I climbed out of my tree stand and worked my way along, and I almost got within range, and they picked me up and were gone. But it was really the only chance.
Right.
And that's really what led me to my success last night,
Yep.
because I was just getting tired of being locked up in this tree. And so I decided that that night I was going to go to a spot where I could stay on the ground, build a ground blind. That way, if the wind changes, I have the ability to move and get myself in a position. And it worked out perfect. I had 2 groups of hogs come in, one from the right, one from the left. The ones on the right caught me totally off guard because they came in so fast. Kind of like you, with how fast these black bucks come in sometimes. Right. I was waiting to draw back as it came from right to left around these trees, and I figured I'll draw again right there. They came so fast and stopped. They were 18 yards, okay? And they were right in the open, and I tried real slow, draw like this, and he caught me. And I just held. And I was getting tired and getting holding this thing, so I tried to let down a little bit like this, and my arrow fell right out of the front of my bow like this, and they took off. I thought, oh man, I've blown my chance my last night. Well, it wasn't 5 minutes later, I had a big group of hogs come in from my left. So I just kind of snuck out from behind the tree that I was in, walked up about 10 yards, got down on my one knee, and just kind of sat here like this behind this nice big bush. And I had a little V opening. It's probably about 14 inches wide, just to the right of that. And I just waited. But this time I didn't take any chances. I pulled that thing back when they were totally covered and held and held and held and held and held. And finally, they just worked right in front, and they were just kind of just broadside to me. And right next to them, they kind of kept jockeying for position. And finally, one moved out, cleared, and
Let him have it.
let him have it right there. And it was a perfect shot. I gave it a few minutes, and I went over, and great blood trail from the beginning. Followed as long as I could. It was starting to get pretty dark, so I ended up having to go back and get a flashlight and finish the job. But anyway, just a great hunt.
Yeah.
And I tell you, anybody who tells you this hog hunting is easy is either lying to you or they've never done it.
That's exactly
Because
it. They're not as dumb as people think they are.
no, this is not an easy game, but boy, what a hoot.
Yeah,
Yes.
Remember, products we use in the show are available at Guard Sports, Oshman's, and Sport Mart.
Hey, we've had a great week down here in South Texas. I really want to thank Ronnie and Ginger, the owners of Dos Equis Ranch, for letting us come down. They have an awesome location here. You really got to get down here, sharpen your bow hunting skills. It's a great place to get ready for the next hunt in your own home state. Beautiful place. I also want to thank Joey Farah. Joey Farah runs Backwaters Adventures down in Corpus Christi, and he spent the first 3 days with us on the ranch here, showing us around, making sure that we knew where we're going. He's a great outdoorsman, great guy to hunt with. And also Jerry. You know, Jerry runs the ranch around here when Ronnie and Ginger are away. What a good guy. He helped us out a lot too. So thanks to everybody. This is Noraker for America's Outdoor Journal. Have a great day and be safe when you're hunting out there.